Hello everyone, and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. And today is April the 17th, 2025, and it'll be Easter in a few days. So happy Easter to all of you out there, however you might celebrate it. I'm coming to you from southwestern Ontario, the southernmost tip of Canada. And I want to welcome all of you to my returning subscribers. I appreciate every one of you and thank you for coming back week after week. And to anybody that may be new, I hope you like what you see. And if you do like it, please hit the thumbs up and maybe even consider subscribing. Now, I know I have a number of new subscribers in the last few weeks, and I want to welcome you aboard. And I hope you'll find this week's information interesting. It'll be a little bit different. So I always start with what I am wearing, and I am wearing a poncho that is made using the virus stitch all the way. And as I was getting this out today, I was thinking, I think I'd like to make myself a couple more ponchos. They certainly would come in handy down here when it's cool. Yes, it's cool. Yesterday it was up around 17 degrees, and that is getting into the mid 60s. And today it's freezing. And talking of snow, I don't know. Will spring ever truly arrive? I hope so, and I hope it doesn't wait too long to do so. I am ready to be done with this cold weather. My hands are just freezing at the moment. So anyhow, I made this a few years back, and the yarn was a yarn I got from Knit Crate. If you remember the sweater I wear that's purple, same yarn in pink. It, yeah, you can see all the sparklies in it. Nice yarn, but I don't remember what it was called. I just know I got it from Knit Crate. And last week I asked you to tell me what mini I should use with this yarn. And I still haven't 100% made up my mind, but what I've decided to do, because I have a little bit of time before I start this, I'm going to cake it up. Somehow they always look different when they're caked up, and possibly next week I'll show it to you again caked up, and maybe that'll help me make up my mind, or I'll have to ask for help again. Now, a couple of things I neglected to do in the last couple of weeks. I know I have a little guy sitting down here, but I know he's crying to get up, and I know some of you want to see him, but I do not want all the hair and fluff this week. So a few things that I have finished recently that were not crochet related, and I keep forgetting. It's probably been over a month since I finished this diamond art, and I think you can see it says spring, and I did have it on my door for a little bit. And then I took it down because I have an Easter one on the door. I think I would have shown you last year. And when Easter is over, I finished this about a little over a week ago and forgot to show it. And I'm going to be putting this one on the door after Easter is over. So I have been working on a few other things along the way and just forgetting to show you. So I'll just put those aside. Last week we talked about one skein wonders, and I showed you lots of patterns, and people seem to enjoy seeing some of those patterns. And there is a bundle, and I will keep that bundle in my description box for a while, along with the bundles of mini skeins. You can go and see a whole group of patterns for crochet in mini skeins and a whole group of patterns for knitting in mini skeins. And I'll add this bundle with one skein wonders in my description box for a while so that people can check them out. But there was one thing I forgot. I mean, the time went so fast, and I'm, I'm not always totally put together and organized before I start the videos. And there was one other alternative I wanted to show you, because I showed you some single skein patterns. Then I showed you other things you can do, like put a skein with a mini, and I have a pattern for that I am going to be doing soon, I hope. Well, that's the one I'm showing you the yarn for. Then I showed you combinations of two skeins, mostly two, one had more. Two skeins of yarn, and that opens up to more possibilities in the patterns. But what I forgot to tell you was this. EFA has a pattern. If you have a lot of single skeins that you want to use up and you don't know what to make, here is another pattern idea, and it's called alicorn. I'm going to let it fill the screen. Here is a pattern that would use multiple skeins and not necessarily matching skeins. It's just a number of skeins. No, you cannot get in there. He looks like he wants to jump up into my cubby's, yeah? Okay, come on up. Say hello to the people. Yeah, if you're coming up, you gotta say hello. There you go. Yeah. I thought this pattern was so interesting. I think, if I recall correctly, it uses 5 different skeins. None of them match. The original, they've done it twice. The older one uses cash silk sock. And I bought a couple of the colors they have in it, but I thought, I got a lot of cash silk sock, I can put them all together. Yes, sweetie, now I'm full of hair. Yeah, hair was floating around and it stuck to my face, especially to my lipstick. Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to pick you up. You got to stop all this shedding. I just thought that was interesting. Now, they've done a remake of it, I think just this past year, but I don't remember what yarn they used. And the remake has yarns that match each other much better if you go to their site and have a look at it. But I just wanted to show you this one picture. Yes. Yes. Okay, so we want to move on to something new today. I don't know how long it's going to take, but before we get into the purpose of today's video, yes, hair. It sticks to my mouth. I need to show you what I finished, what I'm working on. So let's start with, oh, it's up here. I finished, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it today. I will talk more about it next week or on our slideshow week. But I did finish my butterfly mal for this month. And I just want, it hasn't been blocked yet. In fact, I don't have the ends sewn off either. But here is called Calm Waters. I thought the black would never end. And I know, I'm hoping that when I block it, because it looks so solid, but it's called lace. So I'm hoping that this will really block and open up, because I would like to see that pattern open up a fair bit, because this is supposed to be the solid. And this was an EFA called Blossom Fingering, and this is Sweet Georgia yarn called Cash Luxe Fine, and I'm going to be talking about that later, but this is really, really nice yarn. And I will show you after it's blocked and has the ends woven in, and I'll show you the leftovers, and I'll talk more about it probably on the slideshow at the end of the month. So I just want to remind everybody that the 27th, just 10 days away, your pictures have to be into me for the April slideshow. So I finished that. 1FO. Thank goodness. Now I am still working on the blanket, and I worked on it Monday when I went to the hospital with Rose, but I also worked on it one night when I was busy talking to somebody. And I can get so here is where I was last time, and here is how much I have done now. And it's getting quite wide here, so that's a fair amount of work, but I'm going to measure it. I don't know, it might be about the right width now to start changing direction on one side, so I can make it into a rectangle. So while I'm thinking of it, while we're here, I'm going to move this marker up right now, because I won't remember later. And I'm in the first row with the creamy color. And we'll see, next week we'll definitely see it starting up one side. So that's a little bit done on this. I like working on it every now and then, just to give me a change of pace. And I think maybe next month I might even focus on it for a few days, maybe to try and finish it before the end of May. So that's that done. Not done, sorry. That's one thing I've been working on. So when I finished my item for the butterfly mal, I'll stand up here, I started another project, because I always participate, or I try to always participate in Cathy's mal. Now Cathy is Yarn with Heart, and she does a monthly mal where she will give you some colors, choices, and her mal is all about trying something new. She likes to encourage her viewers to be trying new things. So it could be a new pattern to you, it could be a new stitch, whatever. So I picked out a new pattern. Fiber Spider just came out with a couple of new shawl patterns, and this one I'm still got hair in my face. This one is called, it's either the Irish shawl or the Irish stitch shawl, but we'll say it's the Irish shawl. And here is the beginning of it. He talks about these petals. And the color for this month is something like variegated or a multicolored yarn. So I am, got my wool genie here. I am using one of the cakes that I bought just recently. And I started from the outside because I wanted the aqua or bluish color on the outside. And it goes to kind of a greenish tone here. And then it goes into two different purples. I don't know how well you can tell. This purple and then that purple. So we got some changing color, plus the fact that flat black is woven in all the way through. And this yarn has sequins on it. And I think you can see the sequins. There's some sequins. Yes, you can see the sequins every so often. So this is just a 2-row repeat that I'm working on now, and I hope by next week I will have this finished and I will be ready to start that project with the single skein and the mini skein, which is called, I believe the pattern is called Climax, and I'll hopefully get that done also before the end of the month. And on that project, I am using a 4.5 dots hook for that shawl. So that's what I've accomplished, and that's what I finished. So now we're going to move on to talking about indie dyers across Canada. Now, I was a little unsure how to approach this. I did have somebody say when I said I was going to do this that they hoped I wouldn't just rush through it. They didn't want me to just say a name of a company, show me a skein of yarn, and move on. And for sure, I didn't want to do that. They said, please spend a little time with each dyer. And I'm trying to figure out, so how much do you really want to know about each dyer? Yeah, that's a matter of opinion. But I decided, because I was in touch with one of the dyers, and because she had no information about where she was located. And so I emailed her to find out and said, is there anything you'd like me to mention? And she wrote back a little background. And I thought, you know, it might be a little interesting, where possible, to give you a little background into that particular business or store. Not all of them have storefronts. And I'm not sure if I know in every case if they have a storefront, but I thought I would tell you a little from their About Us page. I will definitely tell you where they're located. I will definitely show you a little bit of their yarn and anything that I might know from dealing with them. And some of them, I've just made one order and I really don't know anything. It's very interesting. I don't have it in front of me now, but I had not more yarn, but I had yarn from more businesses than I realized in Canada. About 45 different businesses. And I have 8 from BC. I'll start on the West Coast and move across. I have 8 from BC and I believe 8 in Alberta. And then you get to Saskatchewan and Manitoba. I only have maybe 3 in that area. Ontario, I have 12 or 13. And Quebec, there are quite a few as well, 6 or 7. And then the Maritimes I do as a cluster because I only have 2 from the Maritimes. And I thought, now how do I divide this up? If I go a single province, like 8 is a lot. And I did make notes for Ontario will definitely get split into 2. How many weeks do you want to hear about this? I may do a couple of weeks and then break it up with something else and then do a little bit more. I'm going to attempt to do all of BC today and see how it goes. And if today's video gets way too long, and I'll keep an eye on the time and try not to be too yappy about it all, then I may have to split Alberta into. We'll see. We'll just see. So I'm going to get started. Here, first of all, is a map of Canada. I know those that are not in Canada are probably not really very aware of our provinces, where they are and what their names are. But if you look to the far west coast, you see British Columbia, which is north of Washington State. Now I'm going to zoom in on just British Columbia, and I may show this map a couple of times. What I tried to do was put some numbers on it, but the numbers were just too big. I wanted to number every business, but you'll see a big V there. That stands for Vancouver, the city. And a lot of the businesses were in Vancouver or in the surrounding area, kind of like the suburbs of Vancouver. Then you'll see over west of to the west piece of the province, you'll see an island. It's called Vancouver Island. And I have a number there because one of my indie dyers came from the island. Didn't say where. Then you see a number, I think a number 1, and that's the first business I'm going to talk about. And I'll talk about the other later. So the number 1 is just to the east of Vancouver, the city. And the dyer that from there, and I'll put the name on the screen of every single dyer. This is Black Cat Custom Yarn. She is located in Chilliwack, BC. And her web address, by the way, if I don't remember to say their email or web addresses, it's in the description box below. I don't have emails. It's blackcatcustomyarn.com. She does have, if you go on her site, she didn't have anything about her. She, I did find her originally on Etsy, and I think she's still on Etsy. But when somebody has an Etsy store and a website, it's much, you do them a favor by shopping on their website. She did have a area of sales or discontinued yarns. She carries fingering weight. Some of the fingering weights she carries are merino cashmere silk, merino cashmere nylon, BFL, superwash merino, of course. She has some lace weight. She has an everyday sock. I'll come back to that. She also carries DK in superwash merino. She carries worsted weight in superwash merino and merino cashmere silk. She carries bulky and super bulky. That's about all I can really tell you about her. I've only ever ordered from her once in the far past. I ordered a number from her and I've used most of them, but I still have this one left. And this one is a merino cashmere silk. Feels very, very nice quality. A little more expensive than the regular, but her everyday sock, and I'm going to tell you just the price of what you might call the everyday. A lot of you would buy either a superwash merino or a merino nylon mix. Those are kind of the standard. And if you're a sock maker, merino nylon is what you need. I'm going to tell you the price in Canadian dollars so you can kind of compare the different companies, but also you can compare it to what you might pay in the US. Now, this one was over $40 at the time, but it has cashmere and silk. But her everyday sock, when I looked on the weekend, was $32. And that would compare, and I'm not going to do this every time, but I think it would compare to about $22, maybe $23 in US money. I haven't dealt with her mostly because I found, and I didn't look it up this time, I didn't try to process anything. I found her shipping was a little higher than others, and I asked her about vacuum sealing, and she said that plastic wasn't good for the environment, and she was shipping in small boxes, and that's what drove the price up a little bit. And that's about all I can tell you about her. But the yarn is very nice yarn. Next, I'm going to talk about Bramble Ridge. Bramble Ridge is brambleridge.ca. and it's located in Mission, BC, which is, it's really hard to pinpoint, but I think it's kind of a part of Vancouver City. I first discovered Bramble Ridge a couple years back. I got one of their Christmas Advents, and it was the Advent, if you remember the year, I kept saying, I found little gifts throughout, and the skeins were based on Christmas drinks, and there was a really strong odor in it. And near the end, I found the packet that had, oh, I forget what spice was in it that was really quite strong. But it had to do with those spices that were in there that made it strong smelling. Now, they had a sale area. They sell lace in Surrey alpaca and brushed merino. They carry fingering weight in a 85-15 mix. And they also have fingering weight in a 70 wool, 30 linen. They have merino yak silk, and they have sock sets. They have DK, again in the 85-15 mix. They have DK in the tweed. They have DK in the 70-30 wool linen, woolen spun, and Surrey alpaca. They do not get into the heavier weights. And their merino nylon 85-15 blend is $28. So that would definitely be less than $20 a skein American. They have sock sets, and I actually had a decent amount of yarn from Bramble Ridge, and I will quickly just show them to you. This is what they call smooth sock, which is their merino nylon. It feels quite nice. This is also the same. I really like the colors in that one. And these two are, I got two of the same. I tried not to bring out duplicates. And this is Bramble Ridge. These are all smooth sock, the 85-15 mix. And I have to tell you, they're very nice, very soft feeling. And finally, I have one sock set where you got the full skein and a mini with it. I have a feeling, well, I could make that pattern that uses the full and the mini, but I wouldn't be surprised if this goes separate. This happens to be DK. I probably did that by accident. Again, it's 85-15, and I don't use a lot of DK, but I have one. Alrighty, so let's keep moving on. We have a lot yet to cover. The next one I found after I thought I had everything, written down and categorized and separated. I went into my mini collection, and that is something I might, maybe next week, show you a picture of the minis I have. But this is a company called Color Adventure, and their website is coloradventures.com. And remember, in Canada, we spell color the British way with a U in it. They are located in Vernon, BC. I'm going to put the map back up here in front of me. I keep talking while you look at the map, but you'll see a number 4 a little bit over. I don't know that I have it accurately placed, but Vernon, BC is in the mountains. It's in what's considered the Okanagan Valley section, and it is just a wee bit north of Kelowna, if any of you are familiar with Kelowna, BC. Again, it's in the very middle of the Okanagan Valley. Now, this company was started by Elena. I did not write down her last name. In 2012, and her daughter was her inspiration and also her passion for fiber and color. These were her inspiration. And for her daughter, she started making items of clothing, and that kind of inspired a knitwear line. But due to health issues, she and her husband found it too difficult to keep up by themselves. So they partnered with a company, actually a store, called A Twist of Yarn, the Twist of Yarn shop. And you'll notice on her packaging that it says Color Adventure, and then down below, by A Twist of Yarn. Elena has since passed away, and she left behind a husband and young daughter. But they try to keep up with her yarn. And apparently, for every, they have an offer. They've continued to offer her yarn in this store. And with every skein of yarn that you purchase, $1 of it will go to Elena's family legacy fund. There are very, very limited supplies of her yarn, as you can imagine. This is one, I found these when I went through the minis. This is one mini set I have of hers. And it is 70% merino, 20% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And I did reach in and feel it. It feels very nice. And this is the second set that I purchased. I like them both. And as time goes on, you're going to see why I say I just have to get to my minis. This has 125 grams in it. So it's a little more than your normal normal skein. It's a little bit more. And I'm going to start making some cowls or maybe infinity scarves. So that's Color Adventure. Then moving on, again, that 4 that you saw on the map, I don't think I need to show it to you again. That is the Okanagan Valley, and now I'm going to show you yarn from Okanagan Dye Works, and OkanaganDyeWorks.com is their site. They are located in Vernon, and Vernon is slightly north of, they're both, the two of them are both in Vernon, which is slightly north of Kelowna. And they've been in business since 2010. And they carry items in weaving, hand-spun yarn, felted card and kits, garlands, as well as yarn, hand-dyed yarn. They've been hand-dyeing for 8 years. And they believe in using high-quality materials. And I think I read they have free shipping in Canada and the US. Now, I thought I read it in another one, and then when I looked again, it had with a minimum order. And I don't know if this one had a minimum order or not. I don't remember. But anyway, they carry, I don't have any story about them. They carry fingering weight in the zebra, and I've shown you zebra before. 3-ply yarn, singles, slub, and minis. And their minis are 25 grams, unlike most minis that are 20 grams. They also carry worsted in single ply and 3-ply. They carry chunky, super chunky, DK. They carry mohair silk and Surrey silk. And they dye their, I guess, fingering weight in both speckled and semi-solid. And their standard skein is $31. And from the Okanagan, just so you get a feel of how each company dyes, I have this one a little variegated with speckling. This one is their 80% merino, 20% nylon, and it has 425 yards. It feels about average. And this is another one. Same yarn, same base, just a different color. You can understand why I ordered these. This one for sure. Otherwise, everything is the same, and it's average feeling. But you see the kind of colors they dye. Now we're going to move on to a company called Subculture. And Subculture is subcultureyarn.com. They are located, sorry, they are located on Vancouver Island. And this is the one that said free shipping Canada and the US with an order of $200. It is a family-run business, and their yarn is milled in Canada. A lot of companies buy the bases they're dyeing from other places, the US, Peru, wherever, but they get it from yarn that is milled in Canada. Her work initially began in amigurumi. She had a love of that, but the repetitiveness made her change from so much crocheting to, as she says, making yarn. So I don't know how far back in the process she goes. But I wanted to include this a little bit where she describes what I think where her name came from. Subculture. Subculture is a group of people with a single, common, and generally chosen thread of identity that sets that group of people apart. And in this case, it is working with yarn. This group of people are unified by art and our love of knitting, crochet, weaving, dyeing, and spinning. So we form a subculture. I don't have here a list. I don't think there was a lot of yarn to look at. It was, oh, I remember now. It was very difficult. I'll have to tell you, it was a little difficult to navigate their site and find what you might want to find. They didn't seem to have yarn in stock at the moment. I'm wondering if I might have come across them in Etsy. But they did have galleries. They showed their bases, and they had a gallery showing swatches, so that maybe if I'd looked closely, I would have seen where you could special order their various colors. But I do want to show you some of their yarn because their yarn is quite beautiful. So first we get this. Now this is their merino fingering, and it is 100% superwash merino. Nice, variegated and speckled. Here's one that's more variegated, and this one is 75 merino, 25 nylon, 420 yards, and it feels nice. Another merino nylon mix, exactly the same as the last one. This is called Rainy Oil Slick. Then here are a couple I like a little better. This one is superwash merino, bamboo, rayon, nylon fingering. So 70% merino, 20% bamboo, and 10% nylon. And it has 460 yards in the hank. Now, this does feel softer than the last one. Lovely colors. And finally, this one, I really like it. It's called Black Pearl. And you see the stellina in it. And it is 84% superwash merino, 16% stellina, 420 yards. I love the colors and I love the sparkle. So they have some lovely colors. I would, if I see they're in Etsy, I will put a link to their Etsy store, and that might be easier to follow along. We'll see. But I was disappointed in their site. It wasn't a lot to see there. All right, this next company I want to say a little bit more about, Sweet Georgia Yarn. And you just saw in the item I made for this month, that green was Sweet Georgia Yarn. And Sweet Georgia Yarns is sweetgeorgiayarns.com, and they are in Vancouver, the city of Vancouver. And they consider themselves a multi-craftual site and business. And it was started by the owner, Felicia Lowe, in 2004 out of a love of knitting, yarns, and making things. Now, that's the one thing I noticed in most of these sites. One of them did say more about crochet, but knitting seems to be where they started or how they started, and knitting is what they talk about. But, I mean, yarn is yarn. You use it for what you want to use it for. So in 2005, she actually began the business with hand-dyed yarns and spinning fibers. So some of you out there like to spin, they have fibers. In 2017, they started an online school, and it is membership based, and they have, it used to be just one membership. Now they've split it into sections, and you can take classes online in weaving, spinning, knitting, crochet, dyeing, and tapestry. She also has a YouTube channel. I think it's called Taking Back Friday. I watched just last Friday's, and she talks a little bit about the school and things that are coming and so on and so forth. Now, some of the bases they have. I have DK first, BFL/silk, a combination in DK, flaxen and silk, and mohair silk. Then you go to the what I call fingering weights, and you get a BFL and silk fine, a cash lux fine. That's what I used in the shawl I made this month. They have a cash lux sparkle. I'll show you that. I've used that in the past. They have a flaxen silk fine, a mohair silk sock, a mulberry silk, a sea silk lace, a silk mist, which is similar to the silk mohair. And they have a sock yarn blank, and that means you buy it already knitted up in a big blank, and they've dyed it. You have to take it apart and make it what you want to make it. They have cash silk lace, and they have a merino silk lace. Now, I didn't know which one was the most comparable. I think they didn't have this on the site, but I got this. It's called Tough Love Sock. And this Tough Love Sock is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, has 425 yards. and it feels nice, but not near as nice as their Cash Luxe Fine. That's what I used in that shawl. Now, all of their prices are between $40 and $50. They are more than some of the other indie dyers. For example, I believe the Cash Luxe Fine, which would be a merino cashmere mix, I think it was $46. That sounds high compared to all these others, but it would be about $30 US. And when I get something with cashmere in it, it's always more than $30 US. So here is one of their yarns. I have a number of their yarns. And here is a second one, and I brought out one that had, this is Cash Luxe Spark, which has cashmere in it. And it does feel much nicer, even though there is stellina in it. And it has 80% merino, 10 cashmere, 10 stellina, and has 420 yards. Feels very nice. I was very impressed with the Cash Luxe Fine. I think it's something like $42, which when you convert for all I've been buying in the US, it's not that much different. I thought it was interesting to mention that they do have a YouTube channel and they do have a school. And I gather it is quite busy or well attended. People find it quite interesting, and they have a wide range of classes. Next, I want to go on to vegan yarns, and I've talked about vegan yarns recently. They are in Westminster, BC, and Westminster, if I understand this correctly, is kind of like a suburb on the southern side of Vancouver. And if you live in the area and I'm wrong, you can tell me. But I seem to remember that when we went out to the airport, which is outside of Vancouver City proper, we went through an area called Westminster, but I could be wrong. Their site is veganyarns.com. This is a small home studio, and the person that started it had been asking when she started to, I think she was a knitter, she used to ask in stores for vegan yarn. There are people that need vegan yarns because they have allergies to wool or animal fibers, although supposedly alpaca is hypoallergenic. I've not had anybody actually use it that has the allergies to tell me for sure. And also camel is another one. Camel and maybe yak are possible. But right now we want to talk about vegan yarns. And when she asked, people looked at her strange, and they would send her to the acrylics in the back corner, and it wasn't the nicest yarn. And she got to the point where it was so disappointing and so off-putting that she got and started to dye her own yarn. And she realized there was a lack of supply for people like herself. So in 2009, she started, I think, before that, but in 2009, she listed her very first skeins online, and all of her yarns are plant-based and eco-friendly, and she has unique colorways. And some of her bases are, the first names don't really matter. She like Serious Cotton Bulky. It's a cotton bulky. And Taka, I don't think I'm saying any of these right, Tencel Cotton Aran. And she has a worsted. And she has a bamboo cotton worsted. Then we go to the lighter weights. She has a sock weight, a bamboo cotton fingering, and she has a cotton linen lace. And I have two prices here. One was $28 and one is $33. So probably the plain sock was $28 and something like the cotton, bamboo cotton fingering was $33. So this is a place to look for anything that is not plant-based if you have allergies. Now, she doesn't have large amounts, a lot of color choices. I think though maybe you could contact her. And I would have shown you this one called Alberio, which is cotton and bamboo, 440 yards. I had 3 of these I showed you a couple weeks ago. I also have another cotton bamboo, same name, but a different color. This one is pretty much all blue. This one is more, that's blue, but it's a little more purple. And finally, I have a same base again, because she doesn't have a lot of choices. And this one is cotton and bamboo again. And oh, it's the same color, but they don't look the same to me. So they're probably different dye lots bought at different times. So I do want you to be very much aware of them. And finally, I have one last one, number 8. I can't tell you a lot about it, and it's called Yoriko Oki Yarns. And the site is yorikioki.com, although I believe she is also on Etsy. I first came across her in Etsy a few years ago under Fiber Arts. She is located in Granville Island, and Granville Island is, I'm going to say, just southwest of Vancouver City, where there's a little jut out, almost an island there. And she has come from Japan, and she came to Canada in the mid-90s, and she is a dyer, weaver, knitter, and fiber art enthusiast. She actually, before she got into fiber arts, was an architect. In 2004, she became part of the fiber art studio and did a fair bit of hand dyeing with them. And I believe my notes tell me that she was on Etsy in 2016. But she has since kind of left and gone out on her own. I had some yarn from her when she was with Fiber Arts. I think I've used it because I don't see any with that label anymore. And I saw her at Knit City in Toronto when I was there. Gee, it's getting to be almost a year ago, last May. She has superwash merino, sparkle yarn, sock yarn, mohair, kid silk, Donegal, DK8, I'm thinking that's 8 ply, and worsted. She has something called Mighty Elf Sock, and that is selling at $32. And she has sparkle yarn that sells at $36. And here is one of her skeins, and that's what I got from her in the past as well. I got a tweed. I had another tweed of hers as well. So it's predominantly brown, but on the one end is brown, the other end has this variety of colors in it. This might be, I'll be able to tell better when I cake it, one of those special kind of skeins that would work well for planned pooling. So this is 85% wool, 15 nylon, and it has 438 yards in the 100 grams. So this is one of hers. And she had this same yarn, but instead of brown, one was navy, one was dark green, with this variegated end. That seemed to be very popular with her. So that brings us to our 8th, and I managed to cover them all without going too much overboard, and I'm really glad I got through them all. So that's our British Columbia dyers, and next week I'm going to do dyers from Alberta. Then I think I will take a bit of a break for a week and do some other things, and then we'll come back and continue on across through the prairies and into Ontario. So one more thing I want to cover before we're done today, and that is I think it's time for some presents. And since it is Easter coming up this week, I decided to choose 2 different people, and they are going to get mystery gifts. Now, for sure, there'll be yarn in it, but I think I might include a few other little goodies with the yarn. And I used last week's video, the one where I talked about the one skein wonders, and I did the random comment picker, and the first winner is Adam. And Adam, I'm not going to try and muddle through your last name, but we know who Adam is. He's in the UK. He has his own line of hand-dyed yarn. And Adam, I have your address, so that's okay. And here is the second winner, Nina Snots Crochet. She generally wants to be left out of a draw on the slideshows, but Linan, congratulations. You also have won a mystery gift from me. And those are going out in the mail today, since I have addresses for both of them. You can make a comment to let me know you saw that you won. Congratulations to both of you. Both very faithful followers of my channel. So next week, we're going to move on to Alberta and see some hand-dyed yarn from Alberta. As I said last week, I think Alberta has the largest number of hand dyers. So, but I think I have 7 or 8 from that province as well. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about these hand dyers. Even for those of you in the US, these are great people to look into what they have, as you'll find the prices become much lower during this time of the the currency exchange is terrible. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed hearing about Dyers of BC. And next week, I hope you'll be back to hear about dyers from Alberta. And until then, happy hooking.